Hi, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn live session. I'm Alteryx CTO DV Lamba, and I'm here today with a cricketer I've admired for a long time. I'm pleased to welcome Shane Watson.
Hi, DV. It's a pleasure to be here, mate. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for being here today. I'm a big fan. I had a great time rooting for the San Francisco Unicorns this summer. To start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Shane?
Yeah, so I'm an Aussie-born cricketer. I was fortunate enough to be able to play international cricket for Australia for about 14 years, from 2002 through to 2016. I was very fortunate to be a part of winning two one-day World Cups for Australia in 2007 and 2015. A really big part of my playing days was in the Indian Premier League, which is the biggest franchise tournament in the world. Um, I was a part of the Rajasthan Royals that won the inaugural IPL in 2008, and then was with the Chennai Super Kings in 2018, where we won the IPL title as well. And I was MVP of the tournament in both 2008 and 2013 as well. So that are my playing days. And now that I've retired and moved on to a different part of my life, I'm now moved in the coaching space, which I absolutely love. And I've been very fortunate to be able to get an opportunity to be able to be a head coach of the San Francisco Unicorns, which is an absolute incredible opportunity and a real pleasure to be a part of a great franchise right from the start in the startup. So it's an exciting time in my life now as well.
Thank you, Shane. For those who are new to cricket and are dialing in, we are sitting with a true legend of the sport here today, one of the most successful all-rounders of all time. Shane, my wife is from Rajasthan, so your days at the Rajasthan Royals, I used to follow you really, really closely. So thank you for being here. On behalf of Alteryx, we are also really excited to partner with the San Francisco Unicorns cricket team. Let's start with kind of discussing how the sport has changed over the years that you've been with you've been playing cricket, and how data analytics has played a role in the developments of cricket over time, right? So uh, well, the most obvious point to start is kind of cricket's expansion into Major League Cricket in US. Obviously we're a bit late to the party here, but as the second largest sport, cricket is starting to get more and more traction in the US. What strategies do you think will work to promote cricket more broad, globally and in US?
Yeah, look, all of us cricketers been waiting for a long time for cricket to be able to get into America in a big way, and it started the inaugural season. This season, MLC was a very exciting time for world cricket because the US is a huge market. Yeah, we've always heard about the following that cricket has in the US, especially from the expat community in the US. So for everyone, all the people to be able to get together to be able to really make it work and put the Major League Cricket tournament on this season was something very special to be a part of, and be able to see world-class cricket being played in the US was something incredible. There's no question about that. And from my perspective with the San Francisco Unicorns, I know Alteryx is the southern part of California, just down the coast, but to be able to, for the first few days of being in the US with the San Francisco Unicorns, we had a fan day in and around the Bay Area, and to be able to see the turnout, there's over 1,500 people who turned out to the fan day, and that absolutely blew me away. Yes, I knew there was a big cricket following in the US, but to be able to see so many people turning out in the first, one of the first days of Major League Cricket being in the US, and then to be able to see the people coming along to the games, there really is a huge opportunity in the US market and especially building from the grassroots up. I know there's a young generation that are coming through who've been watching cricket on TV and especially from their influence from their parents, which is where I got the love of the game of cricket as well, from my parents, and seeing the young generation of people who were born in the US being able to be a part and actually see live cricket and world-class cricket with their own eyes is something very, very special to be able to see. And I know it's going to take it some time because the US needs to build the grassroots caliber of players from the bottom up. But we're seeing some great talent already in the US to be able to make sure that it continues on for a long time.
Yeah, I think at the Unicorns launch party, I was really excited to see so many small clubs, so many kind of growing organizations within the Bay Area that have partnered with Unicorns. And kind of the growing talent coming in from there. Do you see? I know there's a few young players in the Unicorns team as well. Have you met with and seen a lot of younger talent in the US that's coming up?
There certainly is. There's a lot of great talent. And it's not just, and yes, there are some expats who came into who'd been in the US for a couple of years playing minor league cricket, who came in. But there's a couple of players who've been based in the US for a long period of time who came in and have done incredibly well as well. So there's definitely enough young talent that's here in the US, and been able to be a part of helping grow that talent and seeing the world-class talent that they've got as well is something that's look, it's very exciting. There's no question. And the ICC, the International Cricket Council, have been trying to get cricket into the US in a big way for quite a while now. But for the people to come together and make sure that Major League Cricket started this season was something is a huge opportunity. And the young talent that are coming through, it's just going to take a little bit of time to be able to harness that young talent that's here. And it's like it was with the Indian Premier League in 2008. The depth of Indian cricket wasn't as strong at that time. But after, about 15, 16 years of playing in the Indian Premier League now, because of those young players who've got access to some of the best players in the world, playing with them, watching them how they go about their preparation and during the game, it means that their learning curve is sped up very quickly. So that's the exciting part of knowing the young talent that's coming through.
Yeah, and I think the T20 leagues have the T20 cricket has really kind of changed cricket in many different ways, starting with IPL, like you said, now with MLC, and you've kind of been right in the middle of that revolution. For example, team selection in these leagues seems to have become more and more sophisticated. I mean, as fans, we see it with IPL auctions, but I know every team is kind of looking at data to get their team mix just right. So, how's data being used these days in kind of figuring out your team?
Look, the data is definitely taking over things when it comes to selection and when it comes to auction strategies. That's been a huge part. And even from the first year in 2008 with the Rajasthan Royals, the Rajasthan Royals used the Moneyball idea around building a team to be able to try and win the first IPL with the Billy Bean and the Peter Brand analytics aspect of being able to really try and just pick a few specific data points to be able to really then bring that together with the human element of bringing the right people in as well, the right personality traits as well, and combining those two. And I saw that firsthand with the Rajasthan Royals in the first year, to be able to bring people with the right skill sets from different parts of the world together to be able to create an incredibly strong team. And I was very fortunate to be a part of that 2008 Rajasthan Royals team that ended up winning the first IPL as well. So I've seen that used a lot, and it continues to be used. And now with the auction process, whether it's in the Indian Premier League, whether it's in some of the other T20 leagues around the world as well, the actual auction process, the preparation then during it, is done by data teams, by analytical teams who are actually using the data that they've got to be able to set up and build a team. And it's interesting that a few of the franchises that actually used the analytical data to be able to actually pick a team, they were some of the most successful teams throughout these franchises over the last couple of years. So the people who are making these decisions are making sure that they have got a few very important data points that they do use, and then they take the emotion out of it and just make sure they pick the right players with the right skill set with the data they have. But then you've got to combine that with the human element as well, is just making sure that they are the type of character that you want as well, because you use that data and then combine that with a quality character, and then that just unites a team, and then a lot of the time they turn into super teams.
Yeah, and I think if you look at from a fan's perspective, data has come into play in being a fan in a big way, right? I mean, from the days of kind of just watching TV or listening to radio, nowadays with Cricinfo and Willow and all these content platforms, more and more fans use data to analyze players, to follow their favorites, to champion for their favorites. How has the shift in fan engagement been, and how has it changed the relationship between the player and the fan?
It has changed a lot from the first time when I first started playing back in 2002. Even the game's broadcasted now as well. There's so many data points and statistics that they use as part of the broadcast, which is then educating the fans and the audience who are watching the game, so they understand and then they can follow things a lot more. With ESPN, Cricinfo, with there's so many articles now that are written around key data points, what the analytics are, what the most impactful players in games now as well, not just the best players, not just the biggest name players or the players who sort of really stand out. It's actually some critical moments of games where a certain player has a really important impact on a game. And now those analytics are front and center as well with articles that you read. So the audience now and the fans are certainly a lot more educated on what the critical parts are, not just the general superstar cricketer who they enjoy watching. It's now understanding all the statistics around it. And I know even with my son who's 10, he now knows like all the statistics, not just someone's average and just the sort of broad statistics. He knows inside out around strike rate and the various sort of other components that really go into their favorite players. So it certainly changed the engagement a lot more. And again, it's being brought into the broadcast as well. So when people are watching, they're fully understanding not just what they're watching, but also the data and the analytics and statistics around what this player brings to each moment of the game.
Do you look at data sometimes, stats for other players that you follow or that you're coaching or mentoring?
Oh, I certainly do. Absolutely. I use data in the lead up to games with my preparation I did as a player, just understanding, especially from a bowling perspective and a captaincy perspective, around what their strengths, what their weaknesses are. And there's a couple of data points that I've really pulled out the most. So then you could try and get the right matchup to be able to get the right bowler to be bowling to a specific batsman if that's an obvious weakness with what the data does show. And then from a coaching perspective, absolutely we use that in our preparation to be able to, if there's any outliers, if there's anything in particular that really stands out that is a really obvious weakness, and because of the data that's available, you can normally pull out one or two specific things from each player that you're playing against that you can really try and hone in on one of their weaknesses. So it makes it, it just makes it a lot better in your preparation to understand that there are little parts of the game that you can really try and expose someone's weakness. And from a playing perspective, you know what those weaknesses are because of the specific data that you come across. So you've got to work on those because you know you're going to be exposed because it's very readily available now.
Yeah, and it certainly makes the game more fun as a fan. So, I think another transition that has happened, I mean, for you personally, is going from being a player to being a coach, right? And I think it's something that many people go through on the business side as well. There's a lot of business people on this call today, and there's a lot of similarities to that against being a coach, right? So now that you're scouting younger players, you're coaching them to success, what many of us do in our jobs. What have you seen best work to identify and nurture that talent that you're trying to find here?
Yeah, talent identification is one of the most important things to be able to continue to bring through world-class players. And I've seen it done incredibly well for a period of time in Australia, where there was a couple of coaches in particular, world-class coaches who were former players who then moved into the coaching space, who were masters at being able to find the right players, the right skilled players, but who had also like a really insatiable appetite to work incredibly hard. So yes, they had skill, but also they were like desperate to be able to do everything they could to be as good as they possibly could be. And then being able to combine that with it was like a finishing school to be able to just make sure those players were really rounded. Every aspect of them as humans, as cricketers, were rounded out to make sure that then when they came out of this finishing school, they were world-class cricketers ready to take on the world. And the coach's name is Rod Marsh, who was a great player, one of the great players through the 70s and early 80s, who then turned into coaching. And for at least 10 years, there was like a production line of world-class players that went through this finishing school. But unfortunately, in Australia, this hasn't continued to happen. They sort of didn't realise how important this was. And when you move that into the business side of things, it's all around understanding what talent you're looking for, what are the elements that you're really looking for to be able to really harness and nurture people who've got the right personality traits around just their work ethic, around how desperate they are to be as good as they can with the skill and talent from a baseline, but then have the right people around them, the right coaches, the right mentors around them to be able to just round them out as complete people to be able to then let them roam free. And when you see that done incredibly well, goodness me, that's where you just see a mass production of world-class performers continue to come through. But it's not always done that well, unfortunately. But from my perspective in cricket, but I know in business, it's one of the critical things when businesses are trying to attract the best talent as well as help them grow and help them be as good as they possibly can be as well.
Yeah. And, there's just something about great and exceptional teams, right? More than even the talent that brings them together. I mean, you were with the Australian team, which was at its very peak, and you've been with other similar teams. It's same in business as well, right? There's some teams that are just exceptional in some way beyond its parts. What is it that makes those teams really great? And how are you bringing that now that you're a coach?
Yeah, a couple of points that really, I was very fortunate to be a part of some incredible teams, and it's a very special feeling. It doesn't happen throughout my career. It didn't happen that often, but the teams that really stood out to me that had the superpower, that coming together and being so much bigger and better than what the sum of the parts were, was one. Yes, we had the teams had the skilled players for sure, but the conversations are always around how can we bring the very best versions of us to every single day that we train, every single game that we play. And if we know all the various boxes that we have to tick in our preparation and then what we have to commit to in game when we're performing under pressure, and we do that game after game, moment after moment, then we're a really good chance with the skill that we have in our team to be able to be on the right side of the result. The teams that always talked around just bringing the best that they possibly could, getting better all the time, without putting the pressure around, oh, we need to win today. Selections up for grabs if you don't perform today. Those team environments, whether that comes from the coach or the captain in cricket, those conversations are the ones that really build up stress and anxiety and worry within a team environment. And yes, that can work for a smaller period of time, but the stress and anxiety and worry really starts to build up. And every time I've seen that happen, the team implodes. So the teams that stands out to me, one was the Australian team between 2002 and 2007 in particular, where we just about won every game that we played in, just about. And the Chennai Super Kings that I was very fortunate to be a part of from 2018 to 2020 was a team as well that everything, all the leaders, the coach, everyone around it was just talking about how can we bring the very best that we can every game, every moment of that game. And if we do that, we know with the skill we have, that really we're a really good chance of having incredible days. And it meant that, and they were the most high performing teams that I've been a part of. So those for me were really critical elements to be able to not just fall into a really high performing team. It's actually something that's brought together within a team. And that's part of my role as head coach, is to be able to create that environment where you're able to achieve things that you only ever dreamed of as a team unit. And you can sense when there's something very special in a team environment. And it doesn't just fall together. It is created by the leaders. And that's something that I just know how important it is, because you want to be a part of a team environment that's high performing, and those are also the team environments where you have the most fun as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, not just a high performing team where everyone feels like they have to bring their best self in. I love that. I think that's exactly what you're looking for in every team that I have been in, at least. So, you published a book recently titled "Winning the Inner Battle," and it discussed the mental side of the game, right, and how to eliminate stress and anxiety. Well, as we wrap up, can you please give some background on how you prepare to play in front of hundreds of thousands of people, say at MCG, and how this translates to kind of some of the business folks, as I said, who are dialed in, who can similarly be called upon to kind of take big, visible projects for their companies? Like, what are the what is the advice you would give them?
Yeah, so winning the inner battle came about from being educated in mental skills for the first time as 34 from a mental skills guru from based in the US, who's based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he was the first time that I really got educated on exactly how your mind works. I was going through a tough time personally within from a performance perspective, and the education really just opened my eyes up to how the human mind works, how we can get out of our own way to be able to bring the very best version of us, the very best skills that we have deeply ingrained in us. But also on the flip side of that, how we actually get in our own way, how we do mentally sabotage our own performance. And by me understanding that and being educated on, that's why I just know everyone's trying to be everyone's trying to master their mind so they can bring all the skills that they work so hard to have and develop so they can bring that every time they're performing. And we are performing all the time. One really simple concept that just I didn't realize was around like the conscious mind, which is our thoughts. And the conscious mind is we are in control of. So, which most of us don't fully understand the control that we have over our thoughts. Most of us just the environment that around us just dictates how we think. And the mind chatter, that little person on your shoulder, that little bird on your shoulder that you've got that internal dialogue with like every single day, that mind chatter is actually a conscious mind function, which we are in control of. And we can, if we want to, we can listen in to what's being said with that internal dialogue. And we can, if it's not the right thing for you to perform at your best, you can actually catch that thought and redirect it to what the right thoughts are for you. And when you spend some time understanding exactly what the right sequences of thoughts are for you when you're at your best, then you know what the wrong thoughts are. So you can catch them and redirect them and just keep redirecting them all the time to be able to step into the best version of you. And when you've got that, we all know when we're at our absolute best, we've got no fear of failure at all. That does not come into our thought process whatsoever. And by understanding that, one, if we listen in to what our thoughts are, and there's a little bit on maybe don't make a mistake, or I don't want to stuff up, or now's not a good time to stuff it up. That's when you got to listen in and just catch and go, no, this is when I'm at my best. These are my thoughts that I have, and this is my sequence of thoughts that I have. So that for me was incredibly important to understand how to direct my thoughts to the right thoughts at the right time. Not just coaches would always say, oh, you need to concentrate hard, you need to focus more, but it's actually focusing correctly on the right things for you to be able to bring the very best that you possibly can. So that as one really simple concept was something that just really was very, very powerful. The other concept is around it's what Dr. Jacques Dellaire talks about is the performance equation, about how to get the best results that you possibly can. And the performance equation is A times B equals results. And the A's in the equation are all the things that you are in control of, whether that's your preparation, your fitness, your knowledge, your how well rested you are, also your commitment right there and then, how committed you are, and also what you're focused on, because we are in control of our thoughts. And the B factors are the things that are out of our control. We know that even if we bring the very, very best, even as a business, if we bring our very, very best every single day, that doesn't mean that we're going to get the very best results we're looking for. There are these market factors, there are these B factors that could get in our way. We could have the best product, we could have the best people building an incredible business, but because of market conditions, B factors that are out of our control, we don't get the exact results that we're looking for. So for me, growing up, I always just believed if I worked hard enough, the things I'm in control of, that should guarantee me results. Well, if you bring the very best A's, the very, very best that you can, what you're in control of, and navigate the B's, the other factors that could come in your way, and navigate those, work out what those negative B's might be, what are the things that might get in your way, and then navigate your way through those. Then you're getting the best results that you possibly can for that situation. So that for me really has unloaded the pressure from that I used to put on myself for a long period of time. And there's two questions that really just are so simple but they blew me away. And one is, when has worrying about results ever made results better? And the second one is, when has worrying about failure ever made failure less likely? And those two questions alone just, I was like, because I was a big worrier. I was so desperate for results that I used to worry about when results weren't what I wanted them to be. But when I was worrying about it made them better. Well, the thing, they never have. Never. So for me, all I then just turned my attention to was, I just need to focus. If I'm going to worry about anything, it's how can I bring the very, very best version of me with the things that I'm in control of, and then what will be will be. And that for me just fully unloaded a huge amount of pressure that I used to put on myself. And that's a huge part of my book, Winning the Inner Battle. Those are just a couple of simple concepts that everything's built around. And it's something that I feel very fortunate to have been educated on, and now part of what my life's journey is now is to be able to help pass on that information to as many people as possible, because it's not something that we really get taught around how to master our mind. At school, it's not something that we're really taught. We just we navigate it through ourselves and hope that things work out. But that's part of what I see as my future as well.
Thank you, Shane. I think that's just amazing insight, right? I mean, if the ability to bring our best self in the face of those B factors, like you call them, I think is hard, and being mentally strong to do that is the game, right? So, well, thank you for joining us today. I know it's early in Sydney, so thank you for doing this. We'll be cheering you and the Unicorns team, and I'll be, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so this is my new favorite team. So we'll be cheering you on when you hit the pitch next summer. Thank you for doing this, Shane.
Awesome. My absolute pleasure. Great to chat to you, DV. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.